Okay, we're back to talk about jigs, specifically football jigs. You've never fished a football jig? Well, to be honest, I don't fish them a ton, but there's certain situations where a football jig absolutely shines. And we're going to get through all that today. First of all, football jig. Its head is shaped, well, kind of like a football. The other thing, football jig has some, let's call them properties, that help them be effective in rocky, gravelly, semi-sticky situations. And don't forget that a football jig, while it doesn't come through wood as good as other jigs, if there's some scattered wood around, it doesn't come through it very bad. Matter of fact, football jigs a lot of time are underused. So, let's get into it. My two favorite football jigs are the tungsten jig from Kitech and, by no other description, Strike King makes a good one too. So, now that we've got that out of the way, football jigs have not a very big weed guard, and you generally don't use them. As a matter of fact, in a lot of situations, you can just cut that weed guard off, especially if you're just crawling it on an open bottom. Number two, they have a relatively light wire hook. Now, what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that they're great for more open water situations, but second of all, you can use lighter line. And in clear water situations, lighter line is an advantage. A lot of times I throw them on 12-pound line, 15 at the heaviest. Now, when it comes to skirt colors, for some reason, for the situations that I fish football jigs, there are some colors that I just don't fish in a regular colored jig. One of them would be peanut butter and jelly. The other one would be a brown and orange. And then you have your just what I would call your normal jig colors. Your blacks, your black and blues. Watermelon. I've used a watermelon football jig. Green pumpkin. And stuff like that. And again, that dirty matte brown color, that black, brown, and purple, that works really good in a football jig. Now, sizes of football jigs. They come anywhere from, you could make them in an 1/8 ounce. And on a spinning rod, a little 1/8 ounce football jig crawled along the bottom for smallmouths and stuff like that can be deadly. It really can be. Now, most of my use of a football jig would be on river ledges, creek channel swings, long tapering points, and possibly a flat with some isolated type of cover. So, as you can see, it's not a real heavy cover situation, but again, it's places where fish would be. Now, because of the situations I personally use a football jig, I would rarely use one under 3/8. Generally from a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 or even an ounce would be about the size football jig that I want, because I'm probably going to cast them a long distance. I've got a light wire hook, I've got relatively light line, and I've probably got clear water. Not that they don't work in dirtier water, because they certainly do. And we're going to get to a retrieve that works in dirtier water for a football jig, and it uses the heavy weight of the football jig to, well, trigger a lot of strikes. Now, we have to look at the trailers. And really, there are very few trailers that I use on a football jig. There's only 4 of them. One would be a double-tail grub, especially when the water's cooler or when the water is super hot. Then I'll use a Strike King rodent. Again, usually when the water's really cold. Then we've got like the Strike King Rage Bug, which is kind of my in-between deal. And then when I want a lot of commotion and I'm going to be like scooting it or ripping it up off the bottom or something, Rage Craw is really good. So about now we're going to talk about rods. And again, I pretty much stick with a 7-foot medium heavy. I want the backbone, I want the length to set the hook. But if the rod has a little more tip to it, maybe a 2/3, 1/3 type of action, something a little bit tippier for the lighter line for fighting a fish, it does just fine. Now, let's talk about how we're going to retrieve this thing. So, I'm kind of an old school guy. The way I learned to retrieve a football jig was to keep it in constant bottom contact. And that was to take it, throw the rod out, throw the rod right out of the boat. Just let go of it. Okay. Throw the jig out, let it go to the bottom, take it, and drag it. Wind up the slack, drag it. And that way, your football jig is kind of like scurrying along the bottom and stopping a lot like a crayfish would, which is a good retrieve. Now, if you're going to do it vertical, you probably only want to take and pull it from 9 o'clock to about 11, which is going to be about that same pull. So either way, you're good. But what you want to do is keep constant bottom contact. The second way I fish it is I fish it very similar to the way you would fish a swing head jig, where I'll take it, toss it out, point the rod right at it, and reel very slow. And you can feel it just going real slow over the bottom, and every now and then stop it, and then start it again. And the biggest thing about it was that with that retrieve, speed means something. So you need to have a heavy enough weight jig so that the speed that the fish want for that day, you can keep it on the bottom. Now there are some days when I'm just straight reeling it almost like I'm reeling a crankbait. Just like a swing head jig. Reel it, reel it, reel it, reel it. And the fish just, they grab it. Now, the last retrieve, and I kind of alluded to it, is kind of stroking that jig off the bottom. Taking that jig and... Now, I don't do like... I saw in a Bassmaster, Trey McKinney, the other day going... like he was ripping a spoon. That's not my version of stroking a jig, but I will take it and lift it 18 to 24 inches off the bottom and let it fall on a slack line. And since you have a nice heavy jig that wants to get back to the bottom fast, it works really well. Hey, that's football jigs, at least for me. If you have some other ways of fishing them, I'd love to hear it. Till next time, I'm Steve.